Hey everybody, how are you? So, I'm sure you have heard that the other day, Donald Trump was found guilty on 34 counts of business fraud. I'm happy. I have been basking in Schadenfreude for about a day. But this isn't the video actually to talk about Trump's trial. There is going to be something about that, but this video is not that. Here, I want to talk about the reaction to the trial, and then the reaction to the reaction. And I hope anyone who sees this that you guys don't mind. I'm going to get a little nerdy over here, but I think it's important because I think we've seen a lot of interesting things that have been happening recently that need to be addressed. And what really got me thinking about making this video was actually another video I saw done by a guy named Vexler. I'm going to put a link. He is a very, very interesting guy. And he was talking about how the democratic world is not really prepared to deal with the guys that he calls post-truth populists. Those are guys like Trump, Putin, Orban, that whole crew. And I think he's right. I think we are not equipped to deal with these people. And I think he's right in using the word post-truth to describe people like Trump. Because a lot of people call them liars, and they are that, but they're more than that as well. And I think it's actually a really important distinction. Because if somebody lies, they want you to believe something that's not the truth, right? Like, if you killed a guy, you could say, I didn't kill him, and you want people to believe that you didn't kill him, right? But that's not really the way that their lies work. They don't want you to believe some, thing that's not true, not like some one specific story. I'll give you an example. After the Mar-a-Lago raid, Trump was interviewed many, many times, asked a lot of questions, he made a lot of statements, and his statements went from, what, documents? No one found any documents. What are you talking about? To, yes, the FBI found documents, but they were planted there. They planted the documents too. What? Yes, I took the documents. I had every right to take the documents. What are you talking about? All in the same 5-minute conversation. It's not one lie, it's multiple lies that all contradict each other, and he doesn't really care which one you believe. Take your pick, whichever one you remember, whichever one fits your fancy. Because his only interest is that you don't focus on the truth, that your views of the world are malleable enough that he can shape them in whatever way is convenient to suit his purposes. And that's hard to deal with. It is really hard to deal with. It throws people off their toes, even really intelligent people. I've seen that happen. I'm going to examine a case of that. The one thing, though, that I disagree with is when Mr. Vexler calls them post-truth populists. I disagree with the word populist in regards to guys like Trump and Putin and Orban. That's not really what they are. And a lot of people call them that, even experts who study them, but that's not really the right word, because Elon Musk isn't going to be in a movement that's populist. Populist is about the little guy versus elites. Elon Musk is not the little guy. Hell, Donald Trump is not the little guy. He is a billionaire born in New York. He was the president. He's the head of his party for almost a decade. He is as insider, as elite as it gets. And in fact, a big chunk of his movement is aspirational. A lot of these people, they're not against the elites. They want to be the elites. They want to be guys like Trump. They think if they can act like him and kind of stomp on as many throats as he does and be as brash and uncaring of the consequences and uncaring of other people along the way, if they could behave like that, that they can also make it just like he did. They want to be like him in a certain way. There's a big part of that movement. What we should be calling this movement is tribalist, because yeah, they do hate people on the elite. Like, they hate George Soros, they hate Bill Gates, whoever it is, their hated guy of the day, Hillary Clinton. Those people are elites, sure, but they're not hated because they're elites. They're hated because they're on the other side. They're in the other tribe. These people, they don't just hate the elites, they hate the littlest of the little guy. I mean, they hate single mothers on welfare. They hate trans kids, people who have no power, who have nothing, and that's also considered on their enemies list. So this isn't a populist movement. This isn't about the little guy. But it is definitely post-truth, and it is hard to deal with that. I can see that the Democrats just are not prepared at all. And it's interesting, I watch so much of this right-wing media, and in a sense, it's almost complimentary, because they're like, oh, the Democratic liberal propaganda machine, as though they control everything and spread their message. Oh, I wish, man. They are so bad at it. It is stunning. It is stunning how bad they are. Not even the left, but just the anti-Trump movement in general, but especially the Democratic Party, how bad they are at conveying any kind of cohesive message, as opposed to the Trump machine, which is as unscrupulous and as morally bankrupt as it is. As a messaging machine, MAGA is a worker of miracles. It's amazing. I can hear, like, during Trump's trial, there were, without him even having to ask, there was a stack of congressmen and senators outside that room saying the same message verbatim: witch hunt, rigged trial, government interference, weaponized Justice Department, tick, 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 like clockwork. There were a dozen guys on every single news channel, tick, 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 same words. My own relatives, within a couple of hours of these headlines appearing on Fox News and another right-wing media, the same word-for-word response within hours, transmitted to millions of people. It's remarkable, and it's terrifying in its effectiveness. And there is nothing on the left that compares to that. And unfortunately, that is a problem of institution building. It's a problem of cohesion. The left doesn't... They have too many conflicting ideas. And I don't want to get too long into the differing intellectual and emotional underpinnings that kind of separate the majority of the liberal from the majority of the conservative movement. That's not for this conversation. But the structure just isn't there on the left, and I can't really do anything about that right now. But what I can do is at least provide people tools to understand how to counter these narratives. I don't know how to get a million people saying the same thing at once, but I know how to help a couple of people, the people who I talk to, figure out when they're being told bullshit. And I want to work with you guys to give you an example of how that analysis works. As a very, very short instance, I want to talk about an appearance that lawyer George Conway recently made on cable news. He's a very interesting guy. I like him. I watch him a lot. He's a famous, his whole life actually, conservative Republican lawyer. He was involved in the early part of the Trump administration. He has, like, really, really Republican, conservative bona fides his whole life. Except after a while, he saw what Trump was, and he kind of got on the side of the angels, basically. And ever since then, he has been very, very active in the Never Trump movement, and great to have him on our side. So he was on cable news recently, and he was arguing with, he was on CNN, and they had their obligatory right-wing commentator, and George was getting in an argument with this guy about the outcome of the trial. And the particular thing that set him off was when this Republican, I don't remember his name, he said something along the lines of, millions of Republicans all over the country think that this trial is rigged, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And George just replies to him and says, you're a liar. Well, George is right. The guy is lying, but that's insufficient. Just calling these people out, it's not enough. You can't just say you're a liar. You have to be able to take it apart piece by piece, because a lot of the things that these people do aren't exactly lies. You see, what that Republican was doing, his intent was deception. But his words weren't technically false. What he said was that a lot of Republicans believe that the trial was rigged. Now, the trial was not rigged. That is an objective fact that can be proven. But he says that millions of Republicans believe this. That's true. Millions of them do. I know some of them. I know this. And even when I'm talking to those people, these Republicans in my life, they very often say to me as an argument, millions of people say, or millions of people believe, etc., etc., etc. Now, the thing is, that's not a lie, but it's also not an argument. It's circular. Let me explain what I mean. The reason why all of those millions of Republicans believe that this is a biased witch hunt is because guys like this Republican commentator on Fox News have been telling them repeatedly that it is a biased witch hunt without reference to the actual evidence in the case, which was quite good. And now they use the fact that they lied to these people and that those people believe that lie as proof that the lie is true. So because they told all of these people that the trial was biased, and now those people believe the trial is biased, the trial was biased. Except reality doesn't work that way. That is why it's deceptive. And we have to be aware of those things when they come at us. We have to be able to disassemble these arguments when we hear them. And that requires familiarity with some of the tricks that these people use and how to counter them. And the thing is, the toolbox isn't actually that big. It's a couple of tricks that they use repeatedly, and if you know what you're looking for, you can stop them. So this is one, this kind of circular argument, using the fact that a lot of people believe something to prove this something as a fact when it is not a fact. That's one. And another video that I'd like to do soon is a similar analysis, just on a broader scale, of other similar Republican narratives, because they do this a lot. A lot of this stuff was done around January 6th, around any issue and every issue. It's a couple of tricks, and if you know what they are, you can counter them. So I just want people to be aware of things like that and kind of be on their toes. The other thing, though, I wanted to comment specifically in regards to the response to Trump's trial. Dean Phillips recently was one of the ones that came out and said that Biden should pardon Trump to calm the other side because they're going to be saying that it's rigged and whatnot. This is deeply, deeply frustrating to me. It's a lot like a lot of people, I believe, misinterpreting what Michelle Obama said when they go low, we go high. We don't have to resort to the methods of the other side, the deception, the lies. We don't have to do that. On the other hand, that doesn't mean that we have to be passive, right? We respond to what they are doing. We call them out for it. And secondly, we cannot let our moral judgment be affected by the actions of people who have none. Because the thing is, the outcome of this trial doesn't matter. These people were saying it was rigged and biased before it ever started. They were saying that without looking at any of the evidence that was presented. They were going to say that, they will say that, and they will continue to say that with any other issue that comes up like this. It doesn't matter. We cannot tailor our response to theirs. And that means that we have to do a couple of things. We have a couple of obligations. We have to do the right thing. We have to tell the truth. We have to lay out facts as we see them. And if Donald Trump committed a bunch of crimes, you prosecute him. Same as anyone else. You have to do the right thing regardless of how bad people are going to react to it. Otherwise, they're going to be in control and we're screwed anyway. So, I hope there's a lesson to be learned in that somewhere. Thank you, everyone. Good night. He's guilty! But wait, there's more! Courtesy of Steve Bannon being an asshole, you guys get a special bonus episode. So I had just finished recording the last little section of video, and I opened up my phone and I see an article where I get an update on what's been going on in MAGA world, specifically Steve Bannon's War Room podcast, which is a real brain scrambler if you've ever seen that. Yeah, that's something. Put your prefrontal cortex in a blender for an hour. It'll be roughly similar in effect. And what's Mr. Bannon been talking about now? He has been saying that Jim Jordan and James Comer are agents of the left. Now let's recall who these people are. Jim Jordan is the guy who stands up in front of Congress every day and says that Biden is a dictator, that he's basically a love child between Tony Soprano and fricking Stalin. And then Comer every day gets on Fox News and talks about Hunter Biden and the Biden crime family with the type of catastrophic language that is usually reserved for, I don't know, a Japanese person spotting Godzilla or something like that. Just, ah! These guys are not owned by the left, okay? They have not been bought out. What Steve Bannon is saying is nonsense. And he knows it's nonsense because he knows these guys. He talks to them regularly. They're all very familiar with each other. They very often, it is very often when you can see something being said on Steve Bannon's podcast and Jim Jordan or Comer are saying it the next morning in Congress. It's quite regular. So he knows that they're full of it, and he knows that the reason that they can't produce any information or any further breakthroughs in their investigation of Joe Biden's supposed many, many crimes is because there is no evidence. Not because they've been bought. And he knows that. But he's got to keep the show going. Because so much of this, so much of their propaganda, aside from being just confusing and kind of mentally destabilizing in that they want you to believe a bunch of different contradictory things and it doesn't really matter which of them you choose. It has to be exciting. It has to be a show. So there's got to be some drama, there's got to be some action, so-and-so's got to be bought out by whomever else, and backstabbing and Game of Thrones type of stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it works. It keeps people's attention, and it also gives them a way out of their cognitive dissonance, because these guys have been promising, you know, the smoking gun on Joe Biden for 3 years now, and there's nothing, and they know there's nothing. But you know, the show must go on. And that's how they're doing it. So please be aware and don't let yourself fall for it. Goodbye for real this time. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching that, guys. I really appreciate it. If you liked that video, then please like the video. And also subscribe. That will be really, really helpful. And most of all, please leave a comment. If you can, because firstly, it really helps algorithmically, and also I'm pretty new at this, and I could use the feedback. So if you could do that and also share these videos with your relatives and friends, that would be really nice. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.